Okay, so this is Donald Trump's chart with transits, and as people know at the moment, he's going through a lot of legal troubles. I think he's being prosecuted in New York for 100 and something felonies. So, what do you see in this chart, baby?
I think it's false accusations because Neptune is just moving into the eighth house which means other people's money.
Oh, okay, it's moving into the eighth house in Pisces. So, what would that mean specifically?
It means that someone is trying to like destroy the reputation
So,
with false accusations.
so someone's trying to influence him with money by damaged reputation,
Yeah.
and like, why would Neptune mean that?
Neptune is delusions, lies, manipulation.
I see, and then in the eighth house, that's obviously ruled by Scorpio, which is more of that same energy.
Yeah, eighth house is tax other people's money, hidden secrets, and Neptune entering that, it means someone is trying to attack.
Ah, well,
That matters.
that would make sense because that's specifically what he's having trouble with. Is people are accusing him of paying off. I think it's a porn star for having sex with her, and people think it's trumped up charges. As far as I know, it's not going to hold up in court, but they're certainly trying to do that. What else do you see in his transits?
I don't think they're gonna have success because his Jupiter is just moving into the ninth house, which is going to bring a lot of benefit. That means he will have stable lawyers, stable people with him.
I see, and it's moving into the ninth house in
which,
Aries.
Yeah, which is lawsuits.
And it's actually the transiting Sun and transiting Jupiter are conjunct each other right now. Will that make any difference?
Not really.
No. Do you see anything else in his chart that's affecting him right now? How do you think things are going to go from in his presidential run?
Well, he's leader. He's born to be a leader.
You're seeing that from his natal planets.
Yes.
Yeah, and what do you see in his natal that's showing that?
Mars conjuncting the ascendant, Leo ascendant in 29 degrees, Sun in the 10th house.
And so, like, if a person has Mars conjunct ascendant, is that automatically a leader, or is that specifically because it's in Leo?
It's not automatically. His natal Mars is aspected very well. Also, he's very confident. He knows how to win. He's going to fight back anything that's going against him.
Well, because that was interesting. I heard on a podcast recently that Trump in person, he's a person who can't be argued with. If he has a direction he wants to go, he's going to go in that direction. You mentioned that's also, is that because of the Uranus conjunct natal Uranus conjunct natal Sun?
No, it's mostly because of the Mars.
I see, but then the Leo adds into that too.
Yeah.
I see, and it's well aspected, as you mentioned.
Yes.
You said some other interesting things about his chart, that actually he's not necessarily the person people think he is.
He's very caring, actually. In his personal life, he's a family man. He cares a lot about his family. He's probably a good father.
And what makes you say that from his chart?
Moon in the 4th house.
And so that just kind of gives you a big heart for your family.
Yes.
But and what you mentioned before is that's opposing his Sun and Uranus are conjunct in Gemini, so he's very different inside and outside.
Yes.
You mentioned that he actually doesn't like public life, which would be quite a shock to most people.
Exactly. He doesn't really like it, and it feels heavy on him. But as he's a leader, he feels like he has to prove things that other people are blind about.
Oh, that's interesting. That's just because of his ascendant again. That's just because of that.
The Sun conjunct Uranus.
So Sun
genius aspect.
I see. So would you be surprised if Donald Trump was actually had a genius level IQ? You mean genius in some other way?
Yes.
You think he has a genius level IQ?
I think yes.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by that. I mean, isn't his from what I can see there, isn't his North Node also conjunct his Sun and his Uranus?
Yes, so he was meant to be a leader.
So that's just very much he's got a very clear destiny.
Yes.
He knows how to put into action.
Yes.
So this is a very clear leadership chart when you combine his clear destiny and leadership and exposing things and the genius aspect with his ascendant conjunct, well, Mars will aspect it in Leo, kind of all goes together very well. But still, you think that he doesn't necessarily like it. He feels like he's forced to do it.
Not really forced.
But it's just
sometimes it feels like very heavy on
him. That makes sense. Because of course, if it was
overwhelming.
So if it was a square, then it really would be forced. But with the opposition, it's not so much. Yeah, that makes sense. Do you see anything else interesting in his chart? He's got Saturn conjunct Venus in the 11th house in Cancer.
Well, again, that's a very nice aspect for a family person. He loves his family.
Saturn can be a bit of a confusing planet because, to my mind, if it was conjunct, I think of it kind of typically as bad and as kind of being a punishing planet. But it can actually have a very beneficial effects on planets that conjunct like Venus. But why is that? What influence does it have on Venus?
It makes the person able to create stable relationships, and since it's in the 11th house, stable friendships.
Ah, I see. Because the 11th house is sort of society, community,
Yes.
that sort of thing. But so Saturn, the reason it can be so often seen as harsh and painful is because people are lacking the structure that it wants. They're fighting that structure. I see. As a question, if Jupiter is conjuncting Saturn even quite tightly, would that be a beneficial thing or would that have tension?
Depends where it is.
It would depend.
Depends on everything.
Yeah, of course. I see. And lastly, he has Pluto in the 12th, which makes him quite a mysterious person. Is that correct?
Well, he absolutely knows a lot of secrets. And probably people are scared of him.
Well, that would certainly make sense because it is confusing that I just heard this morning on another podcast that he was involved in New York real estate his whole life or a lot of his life, which is a very grimy business. So the fact they can't come up with anything is suspicious because he clearly knows things about other people too.
Yeah.
Is there anything else in his chart you can notice? I mean, I see that his transiting Mars is coming up on his natal Mercury. Will that have any effect on him?
Well, that will probably he will say stuff that will make people angry.
I see.
That will make a community angry.
Particularly around society, yeah, because the 11th house is ruled by Aquarius. It makes a lot of sense. Do you notice anything else, either transiting or natally, that's of interest to people?
His Saturn just entered the 7th house, which can also create friction with open enemies.
I see, because the 7th house is ruled by Libra, correct?
Yes.
That's correct, right?
7th house is partnerships, but also open enemies.
So, like we were just discussing about Saturn, it wants that structure, which is going to be, it's going to put a lot of pressure on any bad relationships he has, any bad connections he has.
He will cut off any bad connection that he has.
Well, I think people are definitely hoping for that because they really want him to sort of, deal with his political enemies in a way that they weren't dealt with before he kind of even worked with people that betrayed him in his previous administration. Is that everything you see? Is there anything else you'd like to comment on?
I think that's all.
Okay, that's all from us.